All right, let's dive into a character we all know. And hey, let's be honest, maybe sometimes we are this character. You know, the person who is just full of these incredible world-changing plans that just never seem to get off the ground. You know exactly who I'm talking about. They paint this perfect, vivid picture of the future. They're talking about getting wealthy, starting a new life, launching that business. It's so clear in their mind. But then you check in a year later, and they're in the exact same spot. What's going on there? Now, your first instinct might be to just write them off, right? To say, oh, they're just lazy or they're unmotivated. But the real story is so much more fascinating, and it's rooted deep, deep in our own psychology. So let's just ask that question head on. Is it really as simple as laziness? Is it just a lack of willpower? Well, according to the psychological evidence, the answer is a pretty firm no. See, there are these powerful kind of hidden forces at play here. These are deep-seated psychological reasons that explain why someone can have such a massive gap between their ambitions and their actions. And we're going to unpack them right now. So let's start with the first and most immediate culprit, your own brain. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful machine, but it has these little glitches, these little traps that can lock you in a cycle of doing absolutely nothing. This is the first major trap. It's something called a vicarious reward. What this means is, your brain has a really hard time telling the difference between you vividly imagining success and you actually achieving it. Just thinking about the goal feels good, and that's exactly where the problem begins. So here's how the chemistry works. You imagine success. Your brain then releases dopamine, that's the feel-good chemical, and you get this little hit of satisfaction. And just like that, and this is the crucial part, the actual urgency to do the work just vanishes. It evaporates. Why? Because you've already gotten the reward without taking a single step.
But oh, it doesn't stop there. Then comes the overthinking. You start to analyze every single angle, every potential outcome, every what-if scenario. This analysis paralysis completely drains your mental battery before you've even started. And all of this is made worse by waiting for that mythical perfect moment to begin, which, as we're about to see, never, ever arrives.
And this gets to the heart of the paradox of motivation. We think we need to feel ready before we can start. But psychology shows us the exact opposite is true. That feeling of readiness, of competence, of momentum, it's a result of taking action, not something you need before you begin. But all of this builds into something even deeper. It actually goes beyond simple brain chemistry and into the world of emotional addiction, an addiction to who we could be. Okay, this is the core idea of this entire explainer, so really let it sink in. The thrill doesn't come from the hard work, or the grind, or the messy process. The addiction is to the idea of your own untapped potential. It's a fantasy, and it feels absolutely incredible to live in. I mean, just look at this comparison. Talking about your future success, it's exciting, it's easy, it gives you that instant hit of social validation and satisfaction. But real progress? Well, that's often slow and boring and deeply uncomfortable. It forces you to confront your own limitations, day in and day out. And what's really fueling this preference for talk over action? Underneath it all, it's a deep, often hidden fear of failure. The fear that if you actually try, you might not be as great as you are in your daydreams. So what this means is that staying stuck in the planning phase is actually a defense mechanism. By never truly putting your dream to the test, it gets to stay perfect and shiny in your mind. And even more importantly, your ego, your self-image as someone with huge potential, it stays completely safe and untouched. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful barrier of all. It's not just about fear. It's about the very story you tell yourself about who you are. It's about your identity. So this is a really challenging question to ask yourself. What if the identity that you've quietly accepted for yourself is the very thing that's creating all this resistance? You see, our brains love to be consistent. So if you hold a core belief about yourself, like, I'm an undisciplined person or I'm a procrastinator, your brain will actually fight any action that contradicts that label. Taking disciplined action would create a conflict with your sense of self. So your brain just defaults back to inaction to keep your identity intact. It's wild. So ultimately, this is the choice you're making every single day. You can stay in the safe, perfect dream of who you could be, or you can step into the real, imperfect reality of who you are right now, which, by the way, means facing your flaws and doing the uncomfortable work. So this all really boils down to a fundamental conflict.
right? It's this internal battle between the part of you that dreams and the part of you that actually does.
Let's be really clear about something. Having massive, ambitious dreams is totally normal. It's a universal human thing. But actually executing on those dreams and turning them into reality, that is incredibly rare. And here's the difference in a nutshell. The dreamer focuses on some idea of innate talent and is addicted to the idea of their potential. The doer, on the other hand, focuses on consistent action. They learn to embrace the effort itself, not just the final outcome. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The great separator between those who talk a big game and those who achieve big things isn't talent. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It is the gritty, unglamorous ability to take the next small step, especially when every single part of your brain and your identity is screaming at you to just stay put and keep dreaming. The only question left is, which one will you choose to be?